You wake up. Not because you decided to, because something already decided for you. The air feels cold in a way that doesn't change. Still, heavy, familiar. There's movement around you, but none of it belongs to you. You don't reach for the time. You don't need to. It's already been set. Your body starts moving before your mind catches up. The same sequence, the same rhythm. Yesterday felt like this. Tomorrow will too. There's a place you go. You don't question it. There's something waiting there. You don't question that either. You don't ask if you're doing it today. You just do it. You don't decide what matters. You don't decide what doesn't. You step into something that was already moving before you arrived. And you stay inside it until it releases you. That's your day. That's your life. It doesn't feel chaotic. It feels set. Like everything already has a place, including you. You're not outside of it anymore. You're in it. This is your position. You move through the same pattern every day. Wake up, move, work, repeat. There's no reason to think too far ahead. Nothing changes when you do. So you don't. Your hands already know the motions. Your body adjusts without asking for permission. You don't stop to question it. You just follow through. You do what's expected, the way it's always been done. And because it's always been done this way, it feels right. Nothing shifts. And when nothing shifts, nothing feels wrong. You don't step back and look at the structure. You don't look for exits. There's work, there's time assigned to that work, there's a moment when it ends. And then it starts again. You're not choosing a direction. You're following one that was already there. There are people above you. You notice them sometimes. Not clearly, just enough. They give instructions, they check results, they leave when they want to. You don't. You stay where you are. You repeat what needs repeating. When something breaks, you fix it. When it's fixed, you go back to the pattern. It feels normal. It feels stable. It feels like this is how things are supposed to be. And after a while, you stop questioning that feeling. You accept it. You believe this is just how life works. There's no urgency to change anything. No signal telling you something is off. Everything around you confirms it. Everyone moves the same way. Everyone follows the same cycle. No one steps outside of it. There's no disruption. Just continuity. And inside that continuity, you stop seeing the structure at all. It disappears. Not because it's gone, because you've adjusted to it. But this is where it breaks. The system you're moving through isn't random. It feels natural, but it isn't. It follows rules you were never told. The more you work, the easier it becomes to replace you. Not harder. Easier. Because effort doesn't protect you. It multiplies you. At the bottom, effort spreads out. It becomes common. And anything common can be swapped out. Control doesn't move with effort. It moves away from it. The more control there is, the less visible the work becomes. The more effort there is, the less control you have over it. You stay where the work is happening. Control stays somewhere else entirely. And then there's something you almost never notice. Choice. Not small choices. Not what you eat. Not where you walk. Real choice. The ability to step out. To redirect. To say no and have that actually matter. That's the only thing that shifts your position. The system doesn't reward how hard you push. It rewards where you stand. You're not limited by what you can do. You're limited by where you are. And depending on where you stand, your life feels completely different. At the lowest point, life becomes very simple. You continue. That's it. You exist to be used. Your output is expected. Your presence is assumed. You're maintained. Nothing more.
You don't move.
You're moved. You survive. But survival doesn't turn into anything else. There's no expansion. No direction forward. Just the next cycle. You don't gain anything. But you don't lose everything either. That's the trade. You stay alive. And nothing changes. You gain control. But you lose something else. Then something shifts. Slightly. You start choosing where you go to work. Not freely, but enough to notice. You move towards something that pays. Something that keeps you going. You earn. But what you earn disappears. Food, shelter, just enough to continue. You're always thinking about the next payment. Then the one after that. You can leave. But leaving creates pressure. You don't have space to be wrong. Your freedom exists. But it's fragile. It breaks easily. You gain movement. But stability disappears. You gain control. But you lose something else. You start getting better at what you do. More precise, more efficient. People begin to rely on you. You're not easy to replace anymore. Your value increases. Not because you work longer. Because fewer people can do what you do. You earn more. You can think further ahead. But underneath that, nothing really changes. Your time is still being exchanged. Directly. Constantly. If you stop, the flow stops. You can't step away without feeling it. You gain recognition. But you're still tied to time. You gain control. But you lose something else. Then something else changes. You step slightly outside of time. Not fully, but enough to notice the difference. You begin moving resources instead of effort. Money starts working in places you aren't. You decide where it goes, where it doesn't. Outcomes begin separating from your hours. But that stability gets replaced with something else. Risk. Now nothing is guaranteed. Every decision matters more. A mistake doesn't stay small. It spreads across everything connected to it. You gain leverage, but you carry uncertainty. You gain control, but you lose something else. You move closer to information. You see things earlier. Understand things before they're obvious. Opportunities don't appear everywhere anymore. Only in certain places. And only to certain people. You operate through connections. Through access. Things happen before they're public. You're no longer reacting. Your position. But your position isn't stable. It depends on things you don't fully control. Trust. Relationships. Perception. If those shift, everything shifts. You gain advantage. But you depend on structures you don't own. You gain control. But you lose something else. You move even higher. Now you don't just operate inside the system. You shape parts of it. You influence movement. You affect outcomes. You decide what continues. What stops. Your decisions travel far beyond you. Into layers you no longer see directly. Effort is no longer your constraint. Time isn't either. Access isn't either. But something else tightens. You depend on the system holding together. If it breaks, your position breaks with it. You can't move freely anymore. Every decision is watched. Every action has weight. Reputation becomes structure. And structure becomes risk. You gain control, but you lose autonomy. And somewhere along the way, the system stops feeling like something you want to escape. It becomes something you have to protect. At every level, the pattern starts to repeat. Not in obvious ways, but in something you feel if you pay attention. You move up, something improves.
then something else tightens.
It's never a clean upgrade. It's always an exchange. You think you're getting out of something, but you're not getting out. You're moving sideways into a different version of the same structure. At the bottom, the limits are clear. You can see them. You can feel them. They're physical, immediate. They don't hide. As you move higher, those limits don't disappear. They just change form. They become quieter, less visible, harder to point at. You don't feel trapped the same way, but you are still being held in place. Just more subtly. You were told that if you worked harder, you would eventually move up. That effort would push you forward. That consistency would break something open. But that was never how it worked. Effort doesn't move you between layers. It keeps you stable inside one. You can outwork everyone around you and still stay exactly where you are. Because the system doesn't respond to effort. It responds to position. The shift doesn't happen when you push harder. It happens when you stand somewhere else. And when that shift happens, you don't leave constraints behind. You trade them. You walk away from the obvious ones and step into ones you can't easily see. They feel lighter, cleaner, but they're still there. You gain space, but something closes. You gain control, but something becomes harder to escape. There isn't a level where everything opens up. There's no point where the system lets go. There are only points where it changes how it holds you. And the higher you move, the less it feels like you're being controlled. Because what you gain is influence over decisions, over outcomes, over structure. But what you lose is the ability to walk away from it. Progress isn't freedom. It's repositioning. And that leads to the real problem. You've been focusing on the wrong thing. You think the issue is effort. That if you worked harder, longer, more precisely, something would finally change. But effort was never the barrier. You think saving money will create security. That if you just hold on long enough, you'll build something stable. But saving inside the same structure doesn't change your position in it. You think the path is upward. That if you keep climbing, step by step, you'll reach a point where everything opens. But the path doesn't lead out. It leads deeper. You are not stuck because you're not trying. You are not stuck because you lack discipline. You are not stuck because you made bad decisions. You are stuck because you are inside the wrong layer. And everything you're doing is designed to help you survive inside it, not leave it. The system doesn't punish effort. It absorbs it. It uses it. It redirects. It keeps you exactly where you are most useful. And the more you optimize yourself for that position, the harder it becomes to move. Because you adapt to it. Your habits adjust. Your expectations shrink. Your identity wraps around it. And without realizing it, you start protecting the very position that keeps you in place. And at the highest levels, it becomes even harder to see. Because it starts to look like freedom. Power looks like independence. Control feels like autonomy. But the structure is still there. Just refined. You influence movement. But you can't detach from what gives you that influence. You direct outcomes. But you depend on the system that allows those outcomes to exist. You appear unrestricted. But every decision carries weight beyond you. You can't move casually anymore. You can't disappear. You maintain. You preserve. You stabilize. Because if the system shifts, your position shifts with it. Power isn't the absence of constraints. It's a different relationship with them. You never left the system. You just moved closer to its center. And from there, things stop feeling complicated. Not easier, clearer. You stop chasing outcomes that were never designed to free you. You stop measuring progress the way you were taught to. You start seeing the structure itself, where it holds, where it bends, where movement is possible, and where it isn't. That's where the real shift begins. If you want to see how people actually move between these layers, subscribe.